So the whole reason we do completing the square is to force a quadratic to factor that would not otherwise factor. Okay? So these first couple of problems, what we're going to do is just kind of the first, I don't know, about half of completing the square. So where you see problem 1 in your homework up here, that's where we're going to be just doing kind of half of completing the square. So there are two formulas you got to keep straight. One is for completing the square, that's negative b over 2 squared. The other formula we have to remember is this one we've been doing the last couple of days, which is negative b over 2a. This one is for axis of symmetry, or two different purposes, x value of the vertex, whereas this one here is just for completing the square. Okay, so you've got to keep those two formulas straight. If you mix them up, all hell breaks loose and you're not going to be happy with your grade. So we're going to do, alright, didn't mean to put negative here, sorry, I meant to put just b over 2 squared, so just erase that negative right there. Just b over 2 squared. Not bad. So we take that b term, which in this case is negative 16, and write 16 over 2 squared, and then we just do 16 divided by 2, which is 8. So our c term is 64. So when you write your whole quadratic now, it's going to be x squared minus 16x plus 64, like that. So all the book wants you to do on these first kind of problems is just get that 64. But I want you to do these next two steps. So step 1, getting the 64. Step 2, plugging in the 64. Then step 3, we're going to factor this quadratic above from step 2. So the way you factor that thing, because it's a perfect square trinomial, that's what we just created, you can square root the a term and square root the c term. Okay? So when we do that, we get square root of x squared is x. We bring the sign down from the b, and square root of 64 is 8. So here's step 3 that I want you to get, where you just get the binomial squared. So in this case, x minus 2 squared, or x minus 8, I mean squared. Alright, so all you're doing is taking half of b, dividing it by 2, squaring it, and then factoring the result. So we'll do another one like that, right here. So I'll give you a chance to write that down real quick. Remember, you guys, all of your late work is due Monday by midnight. Monday by midnight. Don't try to turn it in on Tuesday. So what that means is, yes, you can't have a late assignment next week. Got to turn all your stuff in time, otherwise it's just a 0. So we're going to do the b over 2 squared thing. Make sure you use parentheses, otherwise you will get the incorrect answers. So I have negative 12 over 2 squared, which is negative 6 squared, which is 36. So when I write my quadratic here, I get x squared minus 12x plus 36. And that c term will always be positive, because even if we have a negative, we're going to square it and get a positive. So just know that. Then we're going to square root the a and the c term. Square root of x squared is x. Bring your sign down from the b. Square root of 36 is 6. So you get x minus 6 squared. Okay, so this is the beginning of completing the square. We got like halfway through-ish, and then I'll show you how we solve it on the next couple of examples. Charlotte, question though.
Couldn't you just take it from when you have the negative 6 squared and just take the square off?
Take the negative off, you mean? Yes, you could take the negative off. Yeah. Because you're going to square it anyway, so the negative doesn't matter. It's a good point.
It'll be that number eventually.
Yes. Right, so I think what Charlotte is saying is that this 6 right here is going to repeat again, right? And that negative is still there, and that negative will also repeat. So if you recognize that fact, that'll help you out for sure. Okay, so write this one down. We're going to do maybe 2 more of these, and then I'm going to have you try one on your own. So when you guys have these problems and the b term is an even number, they're way easier. Okay, so we're going to do a bunch with an even number. I'm going to show you just one example where you have an odd number, and you can see how it kind of blows up. It turns into a much more challenging problem, but still totally doable by all of you guys. Okay, first thing we got to do is get that c, well, let's back up. So first thing we want to do is get the c term to the other side. So I just move it over to the other side. And on the original problem, we just want to subtract 16 from both sides. So it looks like this. X squared minus 14x. I intentionally leave my blank spot there. I intentionally leave my blank spot here, or the c rather is going to be negative 16. Because I subtracted that 16 over right here. So that's the setup for completing the square. So we're doing the whole process now. You'll notice we went to example 2. So where you see problem 2 in your homework, you're going to be doing this process. And your homework is only like 7 problems long, because the process is a little longer. So we do the b over 2 squared thing, so negative 14 divided by 2 squared, be negative 7 squared, which is positive 49. So we're going to add a 49 to both of our blank spots here. Remember, you use highlighter, organized use of color, you can tell where the 49 is. Did somebody have a question? I heard a little bling, but I don't see a little hand up. Okay. Next thing we do is just factor the left side. We do that by taking the square root of the a and the c term. Square root of x squared is x. Bring your sign down from the b. Square root of 49 is 7. 49 minus 16 is 33. So the whole reason we're doing this completing the square is to force something to factor that does not factor. If we think about factors of 16 from up here, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4, we cannot get to negative 14, so we're forcing this thing to factor, which normally would not. So by getting this binomial squared right here, we're going from 2 x's we had above to just 1 x here, and when we go to just 1 x, then we can solve for that single x. We do that by taking the square root of both sides. Do not forget that plus or minus in front. So if you need to like do multicolor plus or minus in the holiday spirit there, do it so you don't forget. So we end up with x minus 7 on the left side equals plus or minus square root of 33. And we can't evenly take the square root of 33, so you just leave it alone. It's the most accurate to just leave it like that. Last step in solving for x is to add 7 to both sides. So we get x equals 7 plus or minus square root of 33 as our final answer there. I'm going to show you how to get the decimal equivalent as well, just because you might see a multiple choice answer that has the decimals. Oops. I need to put a 3 here. Okay, so 7 plus the square root of 33 and 7 minus the square root of 33. We're just going to do on here. So the handy part about the graphing calculator is I can just hit second enter, and then I don't have to type all this stuff back in, and just switch my plus to a minus. So we get 12.7 and 1.3 as our decimal equivalents. So that when we graph this thing, I'm going to show you the graph on the graphing calculator, you'll see that the parabola crosses the x-axis at 12.7 and 1.3. So if we do that, we got it in there, x squared minus 14x plus 6. And if we look at the graph, right, it crosses right here at about 1.3, and it crosses over here at about 12, or at exactly 12. So it's a good way to double check your answer if you get confuzzled at all on this homework. Okay, write this one down. We'll crank this one out, and then I'll have you guys try one on your own. I'll show you one that has an odd B term. Then I'll show you one more of this, and then homework time. So pretty easy. Your Monday asynchronous day, you're going to have a worksheet with 9.5, some more practice with this stuff. And then we do quadratic formula 9.6. On Tuesday, I think it's quadratic formula. On Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll do some stuff with square roots, simplifying square roots, and that'll be it. You just have 5 more Algebra 1 classes left of the whole year. Crazy. So, first thing we're going to do is get that C term over to the other side by subtracting 14 from both sides to make it look like this thing up above. So we have x squared plus 8x. Leave my blank spot here. Equals negative 14, and my blank spot there. So notice I put pluses in front of both those blank spots. It will always be a positive because we're squaring. So even if the b term's negative, you square it, and it's going to be a positive. So here we have 8 over 2 squared, which is 4 squared, which is 16. So we're going to add 16 to both our blank spots. I encourage you to use highlighter. It'll help you figure out where stuff is when you go back and look at it later. So we're going to factor the left side of the equal sign. We do that by thinking about taking the square root of the A and C term. So I get x plus 8 times quantity squared. 16 minus 14 is 2. Then all I got to do is square root both sides. Don't forget plus or minus. So we get x plus 8 equals plus or minus square root of 2. And then just subtract 8 from both sides. Write the answer, and you are done. So we get x equals negative 8 plus or minus square root of 2. So if you can square root the 2, like if it were 4 right there, you should square root, and you do negative 8 plus square root of 4, which would be 2, and negative 8 minus, because you have one like that in your homework where it does square root evenly, and then you have to do whatever this number is plus the number you can square root, whatever this number is minus the one you can square root. But for this problem, we're done right there. Alright, next one you're going to try on your own. There you go. Make sure you subtract that 3 over. Put your little hand racing up on your tile when you're done, so I know, and I will shut up so you can work. Alright, got our first one done. And if you get totally stuck, just stop. It's totally fine. Put your little hand racing up anyways. Okay, looks like most of the hands are up. Let's just do this one. First thing we're going to do is subtract the 3 over. So we get x squared minus 10x, blank spot there, negative 3, blank spot. B over 2, negative 10 divided by 2 squared, which is negative 5. Squared, which is positive 25. So we're going to add to these 2 spots. So the 25 goes from the b over 2 thing to those 2 spots, like I said. Then we're going to think about square rooting the A and C term. We do that by getting x, bring down the sign from the b, minus 5 squared. 25 minus 3 is 22. And then we're going to square root both sides. Don't forget to take your little hand raise thing down. And then we end up with x minus 5 equals plus or minus square root of 22. And the last step is just adding 5 to both sides. So we get x equals 5 plus or minus square root of 22. All right. Santiago, I'm guessing you just forgot to take your hand raising down. Austin, you too? Yep. Okay, cool. Let me know, does anyone have a question on that one? Raise your actual hand if you got it right, just so I can see. Okay. So here's one with the odd, like I told you. You can see how this thing just blows up and gets horrible just because of that single odd number right there. That B term's odd. All hell breaks loose. So it's already set up with ax squared plus bx with the blank space equals c with the blank space after. Just need to add that blank space there. So we do the b over 2 squared thing. This is where that hint from Charlotte is going to pay dividends, because we're going to use that 9 over 2 again. When we deal with this here, you're thinking about the fact that you have little ones as the exponent on those. So when you square this thing, it ends up as 9 squared over 2 squared, which turns out to be 81 over 4. Okay? So that 81 over 4 is what I'm going to add to my 2 blank spots here and there. Okay? Then when I take the square root, what I'm going to end up with is that 9 over 2. Right? So I go from 81 over 4 back to 9 over 2. So again, we're thinking about square rooting. And notice how I wrote square roots in both numerator and denominator there, because we can square root them individually. You can't divide first and then square root. You have to square root first. Okay? So we get x plus 9 over 2 squared. I wrote my 9 kind of funky there. So x plus 9 over 2 squared. Then the issue is we have to add that integer and fraction. If you have a graphing calculator, bust it out, because it makes it much easier to add with a graphing calculator. So we just put in negative 15, and then we just add 81 over 4. Just like that. We get that decimal equivalent, and then you just hit math, followed by enter twice, and it switches it from a decimal back to a fraction. I'll show you how to do it by hand as well. Here's how you do it by hand. So, because of this denominator right here, 4, we're going to multiply 15 by 4 over 4. So when you multiply an integer and 4 over 4, you multiply the numerators, leave the denominator alone. So negative 15 times 4 is negative 60 over 4 plus 81 over 4. And when you're adding or subtracting with fractions, you either add or subtract the numerators, leave the denominators alone. So 81 minus 60 is 21. So we have x plus 9 halves squared equals 21 over 4, like that, which is what we got when we did the graphing calculator, right? 21 over 4. We got 21 over 4, so it's good built-in double check. Last, we'll square root, and I'm going to show square root in both numerator and denominator because I can take the square root of 4. So we have x plus 9/2 equals plus or minus square root of 21, which we can't do evenly, over 2 because we can square root 4 evenly. Last step, I just have to subtract 9/2 from both sides to get the x by itself. So final answer here is x equals negative 9/2 plus or minus square root of 21 over 2. So the very next section we're going to do involves quadratic formula. This right here is exactly what an answer looks like with a quadratic formula. Okay? Not always, but almost always it'll look just like this. So negative 9/2 plus or minus square root of 21 over 2. The only other way you could see it, like on a multiple choice, I just want to tell you this in case you guys do see it this way. They'll show it like this. I, however, much prefer when you write it like this. Not like that. I will force you to write it like the one I have circled above because stuff will reduce and cancel that you may or may not realize, and writing it as two separate fractions will help you to have a better shot at getting that correct. The last problem we're going to do is one with an even again, just to get that back in your head. But let's just reflect on how long that is, just because we had this, right, with an odd instead of an even number. Then we get into all this, like, have to deal with adding two fractions together, getting a common denominator. It just makes the whole process much more arduous, difficult. That's what that means. So, first step on this one, back to the regular. So the b term is even, makes it way easier. We're going to add 6 to both sides. So we get x squared plus 8x, blank spot, equals 6, blank spot. b over 2, 8 divided by 2, which is 4 squared, which is 16. The 16 is what we're going to add to both those spots. Then we just think about square rooting a and c term. So we get x plus 4 squared. So that thing Charlotte was talking about before was the fact that that 4 just reappeared from right there. Right? So again, if you realize that, it just makes one step a little bit easier. Not like you have to have that. 6 plus 16 is 22. Last step. Square root both sides. Don't forget plus or minus. Get in that holiday spirit. So you get x plus 4 equals plus or minus square root of 22. Again, all you got to do, subtract that 4 over, and you're done. So, like I said, you have a worksheet or some kind of problems I'll pick involving the same concept on Monday. Tuesday we'll do quadratic formula. Tuesday and Wednesday quadratic. I think Thursday, Friday next week are 10.2, just simplifying radicals. That'll help you for later math classes, and that's it. So you just finished. We only have 4 class periods left, Tuesday through Friday next week. Make sure you get your missing work in by Monday at midnight. There's your homework, page 579, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17. Okay? A whopping 7 problems, bust a move, ask questions if you need to. Once you have that homework submitted, you may peace out. Let me know if you want a breakout room. I got them already set up. I'm working on developing my old school rap playlist. Alright, you want breakout room? Volpe, you got a question?
Yes, very much so.
You want to just ask about, is it about this, Ari?
Yeah.
It's probably easier for everyone if you just ask in class, and if people don't want to hear it, they could just mute.
Okay, well, I have no problem asking in class. It's just, I'm kind of confused because, I don't know, this whole thing is just kind of confusing to me.
So number 7, do 18 divided by 2 and then square it.
What's the format for like the spacing out? Like, what is it? A?
It's like, I'll write it on the bottom of this slide.
Okay.
Remember, the top 3 problems, you're just getting that binomial squared. But you want it to look like this. Or, sorry, not like that. So you want it to look like that. That's for 13, 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
And up here, you want it to go from this it's basically a binomial, so some number here squared. So you want it just to do that part. So if you look at 7, you do 18 divided by 2, which is 9, squared, which is 81. So 81 would go up there. And then it's just x plus 9 in parentheses squared. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at 9, you do negative 30 divided by 2, which is 15. 15 squared is 225. So it would just be p minus 15 in parentheses squared.
Do 18 over 2 squared, and then you get 9 squared, and you get x squared plus 18x plus 81.
Yep. And then you're just square rooting those 2 terms. So squared x squared is x, squared 81 is 9, and you're done.
You put a square on top. Okay.
Yep.
And then I'll probably need help with like 13 through 17 on one of them, so I'll just ask you.
Yeah, no worries. Lots of people will be asking. I'll probably do those problems 3 or 4 times a piece.
Okay.
So you can write in the chat as well if you have a question. Just know, like, we had one kid leave early. I just marked that kid absent, okay? Just so you know, that's how it goes. I already took attendance and did that.
When it says the numbers and then on,
Say that one more time.
when it says like the top of the number, and then it says odd, do we have to do
Just-
the odd ones?
Just do the ones I've listed.
Okay.
Which one?
Number 7.
What about it?
Word C is stay and C.
C is 81.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you like looked for them or just kept it at C.
Yeah, you just say like C is 81, like I just kind of overwrote it on the actual homework, and then just do the binomial squared thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Mr. Evans,
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall from last year, is, like, the quadratic formula, like, x equals, when when it's ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, the quadratic formula would be negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus, 4 times the a value and the c value.
Just like that.
So, like, how would you, why are you dividing the 2a?
There's a way to prove that by completing the square with the ax squared plus bx plus c. That's a good challenge problem. Going from this to this. And you do it by completing the square. But basically, the reason it happens is because you do b over 2 squared, and then you have to get rid of, you have to factor the a out, and it ends up in the denominator. It's a good challenge problem to try.
And so I have a question. So, like, what helped me was, like, putting the a, b, and c values all, like, on the top of the thing as kind of like a key, so you don't forget what the numbers are.
Right?
Like, would that, like, mess something up, or can you do that?
Well, on these kind of problems, the C thing will mess it up, because you're trying to create kind of a new C.
Okay.
So,
like, probably on Tuesday?
yeah, on Tuesday we'll definitely be identifying the A, B, and C and plugging it in.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. Good questions.
Mr. Evans, could you do 13?
Yup. So 13, just yeah, that one's an odd one. So, give me one sec. Can you turn your mic up, Charlotte?
Oh, yeah. Would it not be plus or minus, or would it be just like we do it no matter what, the plus or minus?
I'm not sure which problem you're talking about.
The 7, the one we were talking about.
You don't have plus or minus, you just have that x plus 9 in parentheses squared.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing the whole process, you're just doing the first little bit. Okay, Ashley, 7 over 2 squared, 49 over 4. So we're going to multiply the 144 by 4 over 4. We're going to think about square rooting the A and C term, except for writing the square roots numerator and denominator. So So we get g plus 7 over 2 squared, right? So that 7 over 2 just comes from that spot right there. 144 times 4 is 576 plus 49. 576 plus 49 is 625. So you may or may not realize the fact that you can square root 625. So you're just going to have to check it in your calculator. There's no easier way to do it other than that. Square root of 625 is 25. So here's how this thing works. So the end of this problem is a little more challenging. So when you subtract the 7 halves from both sides, you have to do it like this. So you can't just do 25 halves minus 7 halves. The reason is that plus or minus is in the way. So you just have to kind of write it out and then do the math. So negative 7 over 2 plus 25 over 2. And then negative 7 over 2 minus 25 over 2. So 25 minus 7 is 18 over 2, which equals 9. 25, or negative 7 minus 25 is negative 32 over 2, which is negative 16.
I am completely lost.
It's kind of hard to answer a question when there isn't a question. Gee, Shannon, what's your question, Ari? Completely lost is not a question.
I was just saying that I was following, and then it's just a lot to take in.
It's a lot just because we start with that odd number right there. So if you're freaking out, don't freak out just because this is one of those odd problems. I just crank it out, write it down, and then do the ones with the even. I'm more concerned about you guys learning the even ones than the odd. So when I give you a quiz on this stuff, we'll do this section plus the quadratic formula section, and I'll give you a even B term. Probably have you do one like problem 1 where you just get the binomial squared, and then give you one where you have to go through the whole process like this. Okay, I won't give you an odd one, so if you don't get it, don't worry. You'll get it junior year. It's amazing how much smarter you guys get in 2 years.
Can you help me with the first one? Just that, like, I understand how to do the other ones, but this one starts differently.
Number 7 still?
Yeah.
You are just being mental on this one. You're making the hard ones, or the easy ones hard. Okay. Let's get you sorted out on that. So x squared plus 18x plus c. So you just do the b over 2 squared, which is 18 over 2, which is 9 squared, which is 81. So that 81 just goes right there for the c. So c equals 81. So you have x squared plus 18x plus 81. And then I just want you to factor. Remember, like you were pointing out before, that 9 will repeat when we factor this quadratic right here. And you factor this quadratic by square rooting the a and the c term. Square root of x squared is x. squared of 81 is 9, and you're done.
Okay, I just didn't have to ask that one where you put it into the equation.
Like from, going from this step to this step?
The one before that, the one where you did the B equals the C squared.
Oh, this part?
And like when you put it into the equation, it's
Yeah, yeah. So that 81 just goes right there instead of that C. You got it.
Okay.
Yep. All right, Jackson. Later, dude.
I'm gonna get going too.
See you, Dawson. Make sure you guys are submitting homework before you go. I checked. You can't do the square root of 5, so you just leave it alone, Clevis.
Mr. Evans,
Yep.
for 15, I don't know, like the second part where, after you find b, like squared or like half of b and then square it,
Yep.
and you have like 64 next, like 64 in C position, next to 59 there, you see?
Yeah.
And then I did the square root of them, so I got m plus 8 squared, and I had equals, do I put negative 59 there?
You do negative 59 plus 64, which is 5. Because you got to add this 64 after.
Combine my terms.
Yes, because you do negative 59 plus 64, yeah.
And you get 5, and then is it done there, or?
No, because you have to square root 5, and you have to subtract the 8 over, because you have x plus 8 squared.
Wait, why do I do square root of 5?
Because right here, you're getting close, Artie. Not quite there yet, but you're getting close. So you are at,
Well, I heard done is, yeah, and then underneath that, I did the square root thingy, so then
so you have m plus 8
Mm-hmm.
squared equals 5. So why do you have to do square root of 5? Because you got to get rid of that square right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So you get m plus 8 equals plus or minus square root of 5. Then you just subtract 8. Okay, negative 8 plus.
Equals, plus, 8 plus or minus the square root of 5.
Negative 8 plus or minus square root of 5, because you subtract the 8.
Okay.
Okay? Good. Keep asking questions.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, Dominic. Make sure you turn it in, dude.
I already did.
Sounds good. You too. Have a good weekend.
Mr. Evans,
Yeah.
can you do 11?
Yep. So this one's tough because of the odd. So 17 squared is 289. 2 squared is 4. And remember that 17 halves is going to repeat right there. And you're done right there. So C equals 289 over 4, and then when you factor it into a binomial squared, that's what you get. You can take a pic real quick. I'm going to go back to the homework if you need to.
All right, I'm gonna head out. Thank you.
All right. Later. So Shay, do negative 30 divided by 2, which is negative 15, squared, which is 225. I'll show you. I just realized it's going to be too long for me to say. So negative 30 divided by 2 squared is negative 15 squared. Remember, this negative 15 is what's going to repeat. So you get negative 15 squared is 225. So I got p squared minus 30p plus 225. So we're thinking about square rooting first and last. And this is where that negative 15 repeats. So p minus 15 squared. You're done. So take a pic real quick. I'm going to switch back to the homework.
Mr. Evans, could you do 16?
Yep. You know you're going to need help with 16. Pay attention. I'm just changing the A's to X's. I'm going to also add the 35 over to the other side. So negative 2 divided by 2 squared is negative 1 squared. Remember, that's the one that's going to repeat at the very end. So we get plus 1. So we put our 1's in right here. We think about the square root of the a and the c term to get x minus 1 squared equals 36. Then you just got square root both sides. So this is one where the 36 will square evenly. So you get x minus 1 equals plus or minus 6. Then the most common mistake I see right here is people add the 6 and the 1. You cannot do that. We're going to do that once, but in general you can't do that because this plus or minus gets in the way. So what I encourage you to do is just write out the two problems, 1 plus 6 and 1 minus 6, and just do the math so you don't make a careless error. So snap a photo if you need to. I'm going to switch back to the homework. It gives you a... Yeah.
I'm going to go. Bye.
All right, Sasha. See you later. Have a good weekend.
See you later, friends. I'm going to head out.
All right, Ashley. Later.
Mr. Evans.
You?
I'm done.
All right, later, Cole. Have a good weekend, man.
You too.
Thanks.
I'm gonna head out too, thank you.
See you, Zoe.
Hey, Mr. Evans.
You, Ari.
August 16, but there's nothing for the answer keys, because you told me not, you have to just show me all the words code.
Yeah. It's right here. 7 and -5.
I got 6.
I mean, you
Oh,
should
I
get
did.
6 here, but when you add the 1 over, that's where you get this 1 plus 6 and 1 minus 6 portion.
Well, I'm already learning.
You can turn your camera on and hold your paper up, and I can tell you what you did.
Well, I have A equals 6, so where does that other 1 come from?
Hard for me to know without seeing your paper.
Oh, okay, so I did A plus, or X plus X, plus X instead of X minus 4 or something, you know?
Not at all, but I trust you.
Here, I'm gonna head out.
All right, sounds good, man. We'll see you later.
See you, have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
See you, Mr. Evans, thank you.
Later, Clevis.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
See you, Rutledge. Peeling off one by one. You guys feel free to ask me questions. Remember, I'm just sitting here.
Bye, Mr. Evans.
Adios.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, Maddie. Bye-bye.
Wait, how do you do the, well, on number 13, it has an odd number, so I feel like how, number of fractions,
Nope. There it is.
thank you.
I'm happy to do it again, too, if you want.
It's okay, I get it. It's just
Okay.
do the math without,
Gotcha.
fraction. So I'm all done. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
See you, Lauren. Have a good one.
Hope it's fabulous weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Evans,
Yo.
I'm done.
Adios, Santiago.
See ya.
See you, bud.
Mr. Evans,
Yeah.
can you please do 15?
Yep.
Thank you.
There it is. So 16 over 2 squared, which is 8 squared, which is 64. So that's 64, that's where it came from, here and here. And then remember that the 8 always repeats here and here. Then just square root both sides, and you get final answer I didn't write down here is m equals -8 plus or minus square root of 5.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Take a picture real quick and I'll go back to the homework.
I got it, you're good.
Okay. Maybe back to the homework. There we go.
Mr. Evans,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, Megan. Have a good weekend.
Alright, you too.
Later.
Mr. Evans, I'm finished.
All right, Christian. Have a good one, my man.
You too.
Later.
I'm done. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right, Charlie. You too. See ya.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
All right, Shay, see you later.
See you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
I'm gonna have to study.
Okay, Anna, we'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye.